And so when you look at the movie, you see the scenes where he's like walking the llama. You see the scene where he has the big snake in his room. And I remember the scene where they show Janet is in the room and then he says, "Be careful because he's really hungry." Um, and what people didn't realize is Michael Jackson was reading the energy of the animal. Empathic beings are not just connected to animals, but they can communicate with animals in a way that a lot of people can't. So when he said that, that was him saying that because he was very energetically connected to those animals, and most likely all animals. That's why you see he had the giraffe at his house. Neverland Ranch was like a zoo in real time. But I wanted to kind of utilize him as a way to show how multifaceted these soul contracts are. When I say that, there is the soul contract of divine purpose, right? Divine origins of what it is you're meant to do on this earth, but people don't realize how locked and loaded that is. It's contracts within a contract, right? So you get the aspect of Michael Jackson being the gifted being, the talented being, the being that was on stage that wrote this music and did these dance and basically was like a beacon of light. You see, he worked with sick children. He just was always giving his light to people in many different ways. It didn't just come through his music. But then you have to look at the aspects of the generational curse breaker, right? Because outside of him being Michael Jackson to the world, he was also Michael Jackson, the Jackson, who came as the chosen vessel to uplift the generational inequities up off of his bloodline. And there were a myriad of ways that he did this. One way was not being bitter after the abuse of his father and the things that his father did, but also him being able to utilize his pattern recognition skills to see the patterns that Joe Jackson held, right, as a being with archonic attachments, right, and somebody walking in the lower realms of his vessel, right? He saw how Joe was trying to basically control all of the children, and he did that very well. He controlled them, he controlled their gifts. He would make them all stay up late, not get sleep, and they would have to sing and dance until they got it right. Like very much like an Ike Turner kind of energy, right? Because he recognized that he had a bunch of beautiful, gifted children, but he didn't pour into them in that way. He saw these children as dollar signs, right? And we've heard all the stories about Joe Jackson and how he was as an abusive father. There are also, you know, allegations that he was also violating his daughters or one of his daughters, two of his daughters in a certain way. And we know that when LaToya Jackson spoke out about this, people were devastated and they said she was like thirsty for attention, and that can't be true. And the irony is, given this man's psychology and his blueprint and the behaviors, those are staple behaviors for somebody that will be capable of that, right? But you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of times people don't want to accept the truth when it's coming from somebody that they feel like it shouldn't. And I guess they felt like, she's in the family. She shouldn't be disclosing these things. And that's because during that time, we very much so came from those timelines, especially in black and brown communities where it was, don't ask, don't tell, but it was also the indoctrination of what goes on in this house stays in this house. Even if what's going on in this house is killing us, is harming us, is psychologically damaging us on a daily basis, right? And so I feel like she was acting out of her aspects of being a curse breaker by speaking up and speaking out, and it may have gotten her ostracized in different ways. But I do believe that if those allegations were true, she did the right thing. But in terms of Michael Jackson, the generational curse breaker, Joe Jackson was basically controlling them in their gifts. And there were several times in his incarnation where he went along with those things. He was a child. He was also not awakened to the fact that he didn't have to do it until he awakened to the fact that he didn't have to do it. And that's when he got new management. That's when he took his career into his own hands, and then that's when he essentially started to blow up, right? And so we have the aspects of the generational curse breaker that has to walk away from the family because the family is the very thing holding you back. And so he realized, this is my career, these are my gifts, my father doesn't have the right to control them, let me take control. And so Joe Jackson, he felt Michael Jackson was naive, he wasn't going to be able to do it. But I don't think he really felt like he wasn't going to be able to do it. I think he felt like, if and when I can control the gifts and control the money, what does that mean for me? Because the Bible speaks about the devil cannot create, the devil can only steal, kill, and destroy, right? We are all byproducts of divine creation, and we are all brought here to be divine creators. So everybody has a creative genius within them. Now, whether or not you are tapped into that and in line with that energy is a different thing. But the reason the Bible says the devil cannot create, people who are operating out of devil frequencies, hill level vibrations, right? They're operating out of those lower chakras, right? And that's the root, the sacral, and the solar plexus that is distorted, right? So not only operating out of the lower chakras, but operating out of distorted meridians, they hold hill level frequencies, which also translates to hell level frequencies. So when you say, sometimes when you tell somebody to go to hell, you don't realize that they are already there at the energetic level. So when these people are operating out of their lower self, they open their self up to be hijacked by spirits, right? So this is what demonic attachment looks like. This is when the archons, those parasitic, devilish, malevolent frequencies, can hijack their vessel. And usually the karmic father is not just the karmic father. The karmic father is the father that holds entity attachments. Spirits that have been assigned to you to block you can come through your family, can come through your friends, can come through the boss at the job. Anybody that overindulges in alcohol, um, hypersexuality, anybody that operates from a lower spirit of greed. They're always focused on money. They're always focused on material. They're always focused on desire. Those are all lower level vibrations that come from an unbalanced root chakra, that come from an unbalanced sacral chakra, that come from an unbalanced solar plexus chakra. So these are the people that get the hijacked vessels that are in your inception to block you, and that's what Joe Jackson was. He was a father with a karmic contract, with a karmic clause that said, I will block you and hold you back from your destiny. And keep in mind, your destiny can never truly be blocked. That's why when people say things about destiny swapping and all these different things, I have my own ideology on that I will share later. But it was never that he was truly going to be able to block Michael, because he was also the catalyst for Michael's ascension. Michael went through all those things and he was able to rise from it. But that's also a reason why he held that agape love. That's why he was always in his childlike essence. I do believe that Michael Jackson was a spectrum person, because to be an indigo starseed, you usually are. We're very sensitive to energy, but also indigo starseeds show up with agape love. They have this very childlike essence that can also make people believe that they are naive. The irony is they're not naive, they're just kind in an unkind world. So to somebody operating out of the lower self, right, the devilish vibration, because people don't realize God and the devil are both in you. Those are energetic vibrations. When you're acting out of your higher self spirit, you're tapped in with the ethers and you're holding a higher vibration and operating out of the higher chakras. That is your God body. You are aligned with the God vibration within you. When you are operating out of the lower self, you are being demonic in all the ways. You may even have demonic attachments due to you operating out of your lower nature and attached to those lower vibrations due to the lower energy meridians. That is your devil self, right? And when the Bible says the devil cannot create, everybody has the ability to be a divine creator. Not everybody is tapped into that ability. People operating out of demonic attachments cannot create because their frequency is too low. They're also in a space where their divine masculine and divine feminine energy is not balanced, and the divine feminine energy is the creative force, the creative loosh that helps you to create. So when you are not balanced within your meridians and you are operating at a devilish vibration, that's what it means about the devil cannot create. And then we're going to take that scripture a lot further. The devil cannot create, it can only steal, kill, and destroy. People who are holding those frequencies often try to steal, kill, and destroy, and sometimes they're not even aware of why they're doing it to you. One, they don't have the higher consciousness to know that, look, I do drugs, I sleep around, I act out of my lower self, I'm attached to money, material, I'm attached to wearing a mask and what I look like to other people. Now I'm holding a devil frequency, so what is the devil going to do? Be a devil. So these people don't know that they are causing you opposition, and that more so they are the opposition because they don't hold the consciousness to know that. That's why sometimes you will even experience these things with people that are not in your familial dynamic, in your friendship dynamic, in your work environment. It can be a complete stranger, but a star seed holds a high light body that can be witnessed anywhere you go. It doesn't matter if a person can see, sense, feel, or smell an aura. Usually when you walk into a room, people who are holding these heal level vibrations or who have demonic attachments, their energy will shift just like this, and they will be triggered by you and the spirit that you hold, and they will not be aware of why that is. And sometimes they'll say things like, I don't know what it is about him, I just can't stand him. I don't know what it is about her, I just can't stand her. And so then you have to unpack that. What would it be about a person that you just met 5 seconds ago, and they've been sitting in the room for a few hours, not talking, not doing anything other than existing, that will make you feel like you don't know what it is, you just can't stand them? It's not that you can't stand them. You can't stand the energetic vibration that they hold, but also the mirror that they reflect back to you. Because a person operating out of their God body and their higher self is going to trigger somebody. Trigger rate is not a word. That's why I know I'm tired. It's going to trigger somebody holding a lower nature, a lower spirit, somebody that's operating out of that frequency that likes to steal, kill, and destroy, right? And the way that these people do these things is very different, but it all goes back to the lower nature and you being a reflection of everything that they aren't, because you're tapped in with higher consciousness and you're tapped in with the Most High God, and these people don't know God. And the reason I say they don't know God, a lot of times you'll hear people say, well, I go to church every Sunday and I'm close with the pastor, or the pastor is my husband, or I am the pastor, whatever the case may be. But that doesn't mean shit, because you can go into that temple every day, but if you are not in tune with your own temple, because the house of God is within you. That's why the Bible says the kingdom of heaven is within. If and when I don't know myself, guess what, baby? I don't know God. I can go to church every Sunday. I can read the Bible from front to back. I can know every scripture by recollection. I could spew out anything. That does not mean I know God. That just means that I got good memory skills and that I show up to church every Sunday. Right? It doesn't mean any more than that. Because to know God is to know thyself, because the two are interchangeable. I cannot know God if I don't know me, right? And so a lot of times, people who hold high frequency hold contracts with lower frequencies. And it's not that you are being punished, it's that this is your soul contract. This is what you came here to do. Most of the karmic energies that you will ever have to overcome are in your family dynamic, because if you are the generational curse breaker, you came here to uplift inequities off of the bloodline. Guess what? The inequities are in your DNA and in the DNA of the people around you. So what this looks like can be a lot of different things, but indigo children, or more so indigo star seeds, both terms mean the same thing, often hold heavy soul contracts with karmic energies. But there's always karmic energies that are in their bloodline first, that are the sort of reflection of what is to come, right? Usually an indigo gets very good at overcoming narcissistic vibrations because they saw it in their family first. So that's how the pattern recognition locks in. You don't just have pattern recognition because you're intelligent, because you can see some patterns and ignore the shit. But you have pattern recognition because usually you have recalled these familiar spirits in many different vessels. It can show up in friends, family members. There's also past life memories connected to this, where you not only incarnated these energies in this life, but in past lives. And when you open up your Akashic library, those memories rise, and that's when you get really good at the pattern recognition, and you can kind of see it from a mile away. But I want to get back to the premise of what I was saying about Michael Jackson. People knew him to be the performer. Anybody on the outside looking in would say, oh, well, that was the bulk of his soul contract. And it was, but it wasn't, because he was also brought here to show agape love, and that is the goal for all star seeds, especially indigo children. They have very big vessels, they have very big frequencies, and they come here to show agape love. They come here to show kindness to an unkind world, because this world is filled with density and demons in all the ways, and it's controlled by a group of beings who deliberately orchestrated a system that didn't serve anybody but them. They also hid ancient knowledge, techniques, and wisdom that would help people rise into the higher self and find God, which is the God within. But they didn't want that to happen, so that's why they gave you religion. That's why they gave you indoctrination. That's why they gave you the church, and they formulated it the way they did, because as long as you are taught to look for the God outside of you, you will never find the God within you. And that is the true source. That is how you tap in with the divine creator. You go inside, not outside. And so they formulated these systems to keep you searching, because as long as I'm looking outside of me, I'll never be in tune with me. But starseeds are naturally in tune with themselves. They're empathic people, and a lot of times they have no other choice but to go within, because they have incarnated into a world that, one, doesn't understand them, doesn't understand the gifts they hold, the magnitude, but why they've been given these gifts. And so Michael Jackson, being the generational curse breaker, one of the ways that he had to break the curse was by walking away from the family holding the curses that did not want to change. Right? There has been, allegations that his mother was aware of certain aspects of his father's lower nature and things that his father was doing, and she didn't speak up. She didn't do anything. Right? And we know this is very common, especially in black and brown communities in those days. Right? But there are also, different allegations made about his father and how he would beat them and different things that he would do. And Michael Jackson had to break off the inequities by, one, bringing awareness to them within his own self, but also choosing no longer to allow himself to be subjected to it, right? Because that's how you break karmic energy off. You have to, one, be aware that, one, it exists by being true with yourself and going into your shadow and seeing the aspects of your blueprint that has become wounded to the curses. And then the way you break them is by, one, not repeating them, and then two, walking away from it, right? Sometimes you have to sever cords with people that somebody else would say, well, no, you shouldn't do that. That's your father. But if that's your karmic father who's causing you discord, who doesn't respect you, doesn't value your gifts, why would you stay in that? And so he broke off the management with his father. He broke off the relationship, and his career started to rise, and then he got to a space where he became iconic. But within that soul contract, right, we have the Michael Jackson, the icon. That's a contract that he held because he's a light worker. Every time you saw a performance, you didn't realize that you were getting a light body activation. You were getting high frequency, right? That's why every time you watched those concerts, you saw people crying and sobbing and just full of love, because each time he performed, he was giving his frequency out to the world. His frequency is pure love, right? And so then we have the aspects of his soul contract, where he gave the love to children that he never received. And a byproduct of being a light worker and a healer in this way, he was targeted, he was smeared, he was gang stalked. There were actual sort of um, media sort of expeditions that were placed on him, and that was a part of his soul contract to kind of paint him as this sort of predatory person, right? They utilize, oh, well, he's been through abuse, and he's probably most likely repeating it. He's harming these children. They paid these families to basically smear him and target him, and many starseeds, many chosen vessels know these stories. But what you don't realize is one of the most famous accounts of being targeted, gang stalked, smeared, and spiritually violated is the story of Michael Jackson. But there is a reason why Michael Jackson always held a certain frequency, even when he had to do these interviews and he was asked inappropriate, disrespectful questions by some of the same people that started the smear campaign, right? Because the irony is, a lot of times when a spiritual being is smeared and targeted, it's never by strangers. It's always by the people closest to you. A lot of times your family will have a hand in it, business partners, people who are jealous and feel like you're taking up too much space and you're getting too much sort of exposure. And Michael Jackson knew all these things. He knew all these experiences. And the irony was that was a part of his soul contract as well. Um, and I think that a lot of people felt like, what happened to him in the end was a byproduct of years of suppression. And it could have been because a starseed's journey is never easy, because it's not just one and done. You don't get to just do one aspect. A soul contract is often fully loaded, and you are uplifting humanity in a myriad of ways. And Michael Jackson's soul contract, if and when you start to look over it, you can kind of apply it to your own life as an indigo starseed or just a chosen vessel in general, and you kind of see how these things go. And so I wanted to utilize him this morning because I wanted people to understand the aspects of the soul contract, and more so the karmic origins of the soul contract, because we come here to uplift humanity, and you would think that people would embrace us with open arms, but as it turns out, the beings that run this planet don't want that to happen, because it would break a lot of people free. And this realm was designed to enslave you at the conscious level, because if I can enslave your mind, I can utilize your gifts. I can harvest and siphon your energy, right? I can make you be a slave in a system we call the matrix. And people don't realize the matrix that you're trying to break out of is not this worldly matrix. It's the matrix of the indoctrinated mind. When your consciousness is cut off, you unconsciously become indoctrinated to where you do all the things they want you to do, because that was the whole point of them cutting off your consciousness. That's why they teach you what they want you to know. And anybody that knows more than that is usually targeted, because a star seed is not just here to uplift humanity, but they are also energetic nodes of activation. Anytime, everywhere a star seed goes, anytime you enter any space, you cause spiritual awakenings for people. You might not always be aware of it in the beginning, right? Even people that hold such a low vibration, you feel like, oh, they'll never change. They'll always be greedy or a liar or a cheater or whatever the case may be. A lot of times these low vibrational frequencies encounter you because you are their path back to God and the higher self. And so a lot of times you are causing activations, and that's why you are also nomadic in the ways that you are, is because activation can't just happen in one area of the grid. Usually you're called to move around your grid in different ways, because there are different people that are attached to your soul contract. And it's not just the karmics that come in and try to distort the energy, but it's also the people that you agreed to give the energy to help them rise and awaken, so that they can regain their consciousness and regain their connection to the Most High God. And so these contracts can be highly confusing and highly misunderstood by both you and the people outside of you. And so that's why a lot of times looking at the star seeds of the past can sort of act as a mirror and sort of act as confirmation, right? Although we have a lot of people rising right now in higher consciousness and they're sharing these things like myself, it still always helps to look at people that are like you or that are in your star family. Oh, girl, that are in your star family, because I didn't want to hit the squirrel. Because they can kind of show you where you are and why the things go the way that they do, why you have family members who are jealous of you, why you have family members who compete with you and don't want to see you do good, why every job you go to, you run into demonic entities, people holding a low vibration who want to steal, kill, and destroy, and they just met you on Tuesday, right? And so you have to understand that when you show up with the heart of God and the light of God, holding a high frequency, people can see what you are and sense what you are even before you share it, even if you never share it, even if you don't say anything, because you have a spirit that is meant to trigger people with lower spirits. That's why you will find that you never fit in with your family. You never fit in with the people that you thought were your friends. You never fit in at any job you went to. And it's not that you were just being punished. It's not that you weren't likable. It was that you hold a frequency of the Most High God. And so people who don't hold that, who are not attached to spirit and who are attached to the world, are going to have an adverse reaction to you, literally in real time. And that is literally what your vessel is designed to do. That is a byproduct of your soul contract. And so I wanted to come on today and kind of share that, because I think a lot of times we get we get into these contracts, and we experience the karmic aspects of the contract, and a lot of times we can get trapped in those frequencies to where we're stagnated, because we don't understand why we've endured so many bad things with so many different people. And sometimes it's people that we love, we've trusted, but when you come to understand your soul contract and you start to remember their agreement by opening up your Akashic library, you can detach from it, from a 3D space, and more so move through it as the spiritual being that you are, because at the end of the day, we are all spiritual beings having a human experience. You are not just a human, but you are a spirit cosplaying as a human. You are a spirit that has been sent here to have the human experience. And the way that we have the human experience is different for all of us. We all hold different cosmic origins and different contracts, right? And sometimes our contracts are quantumly entangled with other people, because they are meant to encounter us, we are meant to encounter them. And sometimes those people can show up in the form of psychopaths, sociopaths, you know, greedy people, predators, all these different things. And it's not that the Most High God just wants us to be harmed, because people say all the time, well, if God is a God that loves me and values me and protects me, why am I having these experiences? You don't remember that you agreed to these experiences prior to your incarnation, because in order to break off inequities, you have to have the experiences that sort of cultivated them in the first place, right? So I'm going to tell you how this looks. The person that is a generational curse breaker, that comes from a lineage of women who have been traumatized through sexual engagement, will usually repeat that curse before they break it. That means that if you came from a bloodline of women that were sexually violated and they didn't say anything, they were told they were lying, whatever the case may be, you will find that eventually you make it to a timeline where you repeat that same experience. But it's not because God wants to punish you or God doesn't like you, is because you are the generational curse breaker. So you are meant to repeat the experience, but not repeat the outcome, not repeat the reaction. So if everybody in your bloodline was taught, say nothing, do nothing, you will go through the same offense, but you will be the one that will rise as the speaker. You will say, so and so did this to me. I'm not going to lay down and stay down. I'm not going to take it. I'm also going to let people know what these things look like so that they don't run into the same experiences, right? If you have come from a bloodline of women who always choose men who don't choose them, right? Men who lie, cheat, steal, kill, beat on them. A lot of times you will encounter the same type of man, but you will go through the experience a little different. You'll be the one that will walk away. You'll also be the one that doesn't open the door for these type of men again, because a lot of times abused women sort of have habitual patterns, because they have not recognized their own patterns and lower nature of what it is that is drawing these entities to them, because it's not just a lack of self-love and confidence, it's also the fact that it's in your DNA. If your grandmother chose the wrong man, your mother chose the wrong man, you're going to choose the wrong man. So the byproduct of being the generational curse breaker is that you recognize it, you break the pattern, and then you no longer open the door for those type of spirits again. And so I think that Michael Jackson was just a good one to utilize, because he showed us many aspects of the soul contract in real time that people didn't always see. And a lot of people are raising their consciousness and raising their vibration to where they see certain things. There's also certain stories now being shared that are painting him in his truth, the truth we always knew he had. But again, the smear campaign is diabolical. So if and when they decide to target and smear you, and they usually do this to high-ranking souls, it's not mere happenstance, you will find that they can make you look any way they want to make you look, and people will believe it and buy into it because of the way they do it. And so I wanted to come on and kind of share this today, because these were my kind of morning thoughts, and I've been getting a lot of channel messages about Michael Jackson. And as an Indigo starseed, I love, value, and respect him, as his Indigo origins are very similar to mine. I'm very tapped in and in tune with animals. I'm a spectrum woman, right? I'm autistic and ADHD, placing me in the category known as ADHD, right? But I don't think that when I use these labels, it's just to help people grasp understanding. It's not to label myself, because if I was to label myself, it would really be no way, because there are a lot of different labels to describe who I am and what I am. But usually I just say that I am a seer or a starseed, because that's what resonates with me, um, or light worker, whatever the case may be. But I've been getting a lot of messages about Michael Jackson, and I think it also helped me to understand myself as an Indigo child and why I am the way that I am. And a lot of times we are very loving, we are very compassionate, but sometimes we hold such deep agape love that people take our kindness for weakness. They also take it as we are stupid, unintelligent, we don't see what we need to see. And the irony is we always see. I'm very intelligent in terms of the 3D aspect or ideology of intelligence, in terms of IQ and, traditional intelligence, but I'm also very spiritually intelligent. I'm also very gifted. I hold many clear abilities, which are all very strong and potent. I have strong mediumship capabilities. I'm a Reiki girl in real time. I'm a very powerful healer, and I can do a lot of things that are supernatural in all the ways. And a lot of times when I show up, because of the childlike essence that I hold, I also don't look like a woman that's almost 40 years old. A lot of times people think I look like a child, and they'll assume me to be. People can take me to be naive and unaware. But the irony is, with the gifts that I hold as a neurospicy individual, I'm always aware of my surroundings, and I'm always in tune at the psychic level, right? At the energetic level. And so I always see a lot, whether I want to or not. I pick up on patterns with everybody, people I know, people I don't know, people I just met, and I get downloads about just about everybody. So if you come into my field and you got some shit going on that you don't want anybody to see, due to the potency of my gifts, I usually will see. I will get a download. God forbid I touch something you just touched or something that belongs to you. I have the gift of psychometry. I can pull energy from items, and I don't even try to do this. I've had many poor experiences where I was doing this and it allowed me to see some shit that I couldn't unsee and didn't want to see. And so me opening this thread of activation is just to bring truths to the world that many people are not aware of or sometimes are gaslit around, right? There are a lot of people raising their consciousness, raising awareness of who they are, what their galactic origins are, what it means to be a star seed or a seer, and what it means to have these gifts that the world will tell you may or may not be real, but you know them to be real. You also know that there's a massive population of awakening beings who have these same gifts to different magnitudes, right? And who also share your experience. And so this is my thread to just share my journey, right? That's why it's called the Arcturus Thread, Confessions of a Starseed, because I'm giving you my confessions in real time, my thoughts, my experiences, right? My ancient wisdom, things that I have sort of been able to access through my Akashic library, because I believe that this is not just a thread that's helping me to get back to me and to my original blueprint, but it's a thread to help you do so as well. And I believe that we are all threads of energy that are connected. I believe that separation was the biggest lie ever told. And I believe that the more of us that step up and walk fully in our truth, we are always walking in purpose. I don't believe that purpose has to be this grandiose thing. I believe that every day you wake up and you are acting out of your highest vibration and your higher self, you are walking in purpose. It doesn't matter if the only thing you did that day was hold the door open for someone, you gave somebody a kind word, you didn't retaliate out of ugliness to those who harm and attack you. Those were all days that you were walking in purpose, right? And so this is me just kind of expanding my purpose in a way that is very on brand for me. I'm a very gifted speaker. My throat chakra gets active and I can talk the talk, right? Walk the walk, and I can talk for very long periods of time, right? And I'm also a very avid channeler. So a lot of times when I'm speaking, source is moving through me or other frequencies are moving through me, and that is the byproduct of mediumship, right? I'm an automatic writer, but I'm also an automatic speaker. Sometimes when you're getting a message from me, it is an activation, but it's also channeling coming through my guides, through my ancestors, through higher beings that I'm connected with. And so this thread is just going to be a thread of all things true, right? And true in terms of my mind, body, and soul, and me helping you to tap in with your mind, body, and soul. And I believe that truth is a universal key. A lot of times there are people who can't rise into their destiny until you rise into yours because you are going to inspire them to do so. And I believe that truth is inspiration and an activator to all who open themselves up to it, right? And I don't believe that anybody is without flaw, but anybody is to the point of no return. I believe that you can return to your soul, into the God within at any time that you choose to do so. But it's just about making an active choice to walk away from the things that are not serving you in your highest good. And sometimes the things that aren't serving us are the very things that appear to be serving us, right? And so that's all I got for you guys today on this thread. And again, if you don't know who I am Nidra the Seer, and this is the Arcturus Thread, Confessions of a Star